Hi there, I'm Margaret, and I've lived through quite a bit in my 75 years. When I was younger, I didn't think much about my health. I was busy raising kids, working, and taking care of everyone else around me. But as I grew older, something clicked. One day, I looked in the mirror and I realized if I don't take care of myself, no one else will. So, I started paying more attention to my health. But let me tell you, it wasn't always easy, and there were times I doubted myself. It was around that time I started learning about the habits of happy and healthy women, women who not only lived long lives but thrived in them. Every morning, I wake up with a sense of purpose, something that many of these incredible women shared. They made their health a priority. It didn't mean running marathons or eating only kale, but it did mean simple daily choices. They invested in themselves, and that's something I've been doing every day since. I go for my morning walks, even if it's just for 20 minutes. I stretch my muscles, pay attention to what I eat, and I listen to my body when it tells me something is off. At first, I thought, isn't it too late to start? But believe me, it's never too late to start living healthier. Trust me, you're never too old to make these small changes. And if you're wondering how this all fits into living a happy life, let me tell you, prioritizing my health has given me more energy to enjoy the things that matter. I garden, I read, I still paint, though my hands don't move as quickly as they used to. But more importantly, it's helped me live each day with a clear purpose. Let me share a little secret with you. Those women who lived into their 100s, yes, they had their health at the top of the list. They took small, consistent steps every day to feel better. They didn't just wait for health problems to show up. They worked to prevent them. Now, I want to invite you to think about something. What small step can you take today to prioritize your health? Let's dive into it. A typical day for me starts with the sun just beginning to peek through the curtains. I wake up early, not because I have to, but because I want to. The mornings have become my sacred time. I sit by the window with a cup of tea, watching the world wake up around me. I think about what I want to accomplish that day, big or small. It could be a walk in the garden, working on a new painting, or sometimes just calling a friend to check in. It's the simple things that make my heart happy. But you know what? It wasn't always this way. There was a time when I felt lost. After my children grew up and moved away, I found myself questioning my purpose. What was I doing here? What was left for me to look forward to each day? I could feel a quiet emptiness settling in. It's a feeling I think many of us face when we start growing older. It can be easy to fall into the trap of thinking life has passed us by and there's nothing left to do. But one day, I read about a woman who was well into her 90s and still volunteering at her local community center. She said something that stuck with me. As long as you have a purpose, you have life. That simple statement made me realize that I didn't have to wait for something grand to come into my life. I could create purpose every single day. So, I started small. I began reading more, trying to learn new things, whether it was gardening tips or a new recipe. I found joy in connecting with people, volunteering at the local senior center, and even helping my neighbors with their grocery shopping. It wasn't about being busy, it was about having something that gave my life meaning. And let me tell you, it's made all the difference. Now, I wake up with a sense of excitement. I have a list of things that matter to me, whether it's writing letters to my children or practicing my painting. Each of these things gives me a sense of purpose. It keeps my mind sharp and my heart full. And that, my dear, is the key to living long and living well. When you have a reason to get out of bed in the morning, when you're driven by a sense of purpose, you don't just survive, you thrive. Sometimes, when I'm working in my garden or talking to someone new, I realize how far I've come from that empty place I was in. Life doesn't stop at 70 or 80. In fact, it's only the beginning of a new chapter. And if there's one thing I want to share with you today, it's this. Don't let the years define you. Create your own purpose. Find things that bring you joy and make it a part of your life every single day. You might be surprised at how much energy and excitement it can bring. Just yesterday, I ran into my old friend Jane. She's a few years older than me, but you wouldn't guess it. She still works as a volunteer at the hospital, helping the new nurses with their training. She loves it, and you can tell by the sparkle in her eyes when she talks about it. We were laughing, reminiscing about the old days, and she said something I'll never forget. As long as I'm helping, I'm alive. And that, my dear, is how you keep your spirit young. So, what about you? What little spark will you light today to keep your purpose alive? Life doesn't stop. It's just waiting for you to live it with passion. Now, let's take a step forward, together. There's something truly special about watching the sunrise every morning, sipping tea, and reflecting on the life you've lived. But, as I sat there one morning, I had a thought that surprised me. Was I really doing enough? For years, I had been so focused on taking care of myself, my health, my purpose, that I hadn't really thought about one crucial thing. Who was I connecting with? Sure, I kept in touch with my children and a few friends. But what about the people around me? What about the community? I'd been isolating myself in my little world of routines, and it wasn't until that morning that I realized something had been missing. That day, I called up my neighbor, Miss S. Thompson, who lives a few doors down. We had always exchanged pleasantries, but never really spent time together. I thought, maybe I can invite her over for a cup of tea. But to be honest, I wasn't sure how she'd feel. I mean, here I was, a woman in her 70s, wondering if it was too late to make new connections, to step outside my comfort zone. I called, and after a brief conversation, Miss S. Thompson agreed. When she arrived later that afternoon, I could see the same hesitation in her eyes that I felt earlier. But as we started chatting, something beautiful happened. We talked about our gardens, our favorite books, our families. Before we knew it, hours had passed. And there, in that moment, I realized something I had overlooked for so long. Social connection is as vital to your health as any exercise routine. You see, many older adults, myself included, fall into the trap of becoming isolated. Over time, friends move away, family gets busy, and before you know it, you're spending more and more time alone. At first, it feels harmless, but soon the loneliness creeps in, and it begins to take its toll, not just on your mood, but on your physical and mental health, too. The research is clear. Social isolation is linked to higher risks of heart disease, cognitive decline, and even premature death. It's like you're slowly fading into the background, and before you know it, you're stuck in a routine that doesn't bring you joy. That was the moment I understood how important it was to stay connected, not just for my mental well-being, but for my physical health too. Mrs. Thompson and I agreed that we would start meeting regularly. A small gesture, but it meant the world to me. And the next week, I joined a local book club. To my surprise, it wasn't as hard as I thought. In fact, it was quite liberating. I met people from all walks of life, some even older than me, and we laughed, shared stories, and discussed our favorite novels. It felt like I was finally living again, and it made me realize something incredible. When you stay connected, you stay alive. A few weeks ago, I also decided to reach out to my childhood friend Emily, who I hadn't spoken to in years. We used to be inseparable, but life had pulled us in different directions. To my joy, she was thrilled to reconnect. And now, we talk almost every day, sharing memories and planning little adventures together. I never realized how much I had missed that feeling of connection, of really having someone to share things with. You know, it's funny. I always thought that as I got older, I'd become more content being by myself. But what I've learned is that it's never too late to build new connections, to make new friends, and to surround yourself with people who bring joy into your life. When you stay connected, you feel better, both physically and emotionally. And as I've learned, it's one of the most powerful ways to keep living well. So, if you find yourself feeling a bit isolated or disconnected, I encourage you take that first step. Call an old friend, join a local group, or just reach out to someone in your community. The difference it can make in your life is truly remarkable because when it comes to living a long, healthy life, it's not just what you do for yourself, it's what you do with others that really makes all the difference. That day with Miss S. Thompson and the following weeks of reconnecting with others have been a wake-up call for me. It's never too late to build the connections that will keep you strong, healthy, and happy for years to come. And for that, I'll always be grateful. It was a crisp autumn morning when I found myself standing at the edge of my garden, staring at the fallen leaves and the empty space where my vegetable patch used to be. I had spent so many years tending to it, and yet, with the change in seasons and my growing sense of weariness, I found myself unsure. The last few months had been tough. My joints ached more than usual, and I could feel the stiffness in my knees when I tried to bend down. A wave of doubt washed over me. Is this it? Is this what getting older really means? I thought about the women I had admired, the ones who lived into their 100s, still active, still full of life. They didn't stop moving. They didn't accept the limitations their bodies gave them. They adapted. They fought to keep going, no matter the challenges. I couldn't let myself fall into the trap of believing that just because I was getting older, I had to give up on the things I loved. But in that moment, as I stood there in my garden, I was torn. Do I keep pushing myself, even when it hurts? Or do I step back and accept the limitations? I remembered a conversation I had with my doctor not too long ago. She told me that as we age, it's easy to let our bodies dictate what we can and cannot do. But Margaret, she said, you don't have to let age be your enemy. You can still have a vibrant life, even in your 70s and beyond, but it's up to you to make that choice. It was a choice, and that's when I realized something. I had been letting fear dictate my actions. The fear of pain, the fear of failure, the fear of looking weak. But the truth is, it wasn't the physical pain that was the biggest obstacle, it was my mind, my thinking that needed to change. And then came the decision. I looked at my garden, then at my shoes, and made up my mind. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get back to work. It wasn't going to be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. So, I put on my gloves, grabbed my rake, and started picking up the fallen leaves. At first, my hands trembled and my knees protested, but as I moved, I began to feel a sense of accomplishment. Slowly but surely, I was moving again. I wasn't thinking about how hard it was. Instead, I focused on the little victories each leaf I picked up. Each step I took, the more I moved, the better I felt. And in that moment, I realized that saying no to physical decline is about making a decision every day to move, to think positively, and to not accept limitations just because I'm aging. It's about refusing to let my mind dictate what my body can do. I didn't have to run marathons or be a world-class athlete. I just had to keep moving, even if it was small steps. It was about staying active in a way that suited my body, but never giving up. Every day, I would wake up and choose to take care of my body. to fight against the idea that aging means slowing down. That decision to step into my garden, to move, to not accept decline, was the turning point. It wasn't about proving anything to anyone else. It was about proving to myself that I was still capable, still strong, and still worthy of living a full life. And as I worked through the day, I felt a sense of peace. I didn't have to do everything perfectly. I didn't have to be the person I was 20 years ago, but I could still be someone who chose to stay active, mentally and physically, and who refused to let aging steal my joy. That day in my garden taught me a valuable lesson. The mind is the most powerful tool we have when it comes to aging. It's our thoughts, our decisions, and our attitude toward aging that shape our health and happiness. Every day is a new opportunity to decide how we will live, how we will move, and how we will think. I may not be able to do everything I used to, but I will always find new ways to keep moving forward. And for me, that's enough. The next few days were not as easy as I had hoped. There were moments when my knees ached more than I wanted to admit, and my hands felt stiff, as though they were no longer used to the motions of work. There were times when I would stop for a moment, catch my breath, and wonder if I should just give up. Maybe I've pushed myself too far this time, I thought. But then I would remember what I had told myself, the promise I made, to keep moving forward. I realized something important. It wasn't about pushing myself to the limit. It was about staying consistent. The small steps, the gentle movements, were just as important as any intense workout. Every day, I made a decision to move no matter how slow or how small. I began with simple things: walking around the house, stretching in the morning while I waited for my tea to brew, even gently bending down to water my plants. At first, it felt awkward. My body wasn't used to it anymore. But the more I did it, the more I felt my muscles slowly waking up. I could feel my energy rising bit by bit. But it wasn't just about the physical movement. It was also about shifting my mindset. I had spent so many years thinking that aging meant slowing down, that I should take it easy and rest more often. But now I realized that sitting still was my biggest enemy. It was when I didn't move that my body started to weaken, my mind began to dull, and I felt more disconnected from the world. One afternoon, while sitting in my favorite chair after a walk around the neighborhood, I thought back to all the strong women I had admired, those who lived well into their 90s and beyond. They never stopped moving, even when they faced obstacles. They didn't see aging as a reason to quit. Instead, they saw it as an opportunity to try something new, to keep their bodies and minds engaged. That was my turning point. I realized that staying active wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. If I wanted to live a long, healthy life, I couldn't afford to stop moving. It wasn't about running marathons or lifting heavy weights. It was about staying engaged with my body every single day. The next morning, I put on my shoes and decided to take my walk one step further. Instead of just walking around the block, I went to the park nearby. It was a small change, but it felt like a victory. As I walked, I noticed how good it felt to move, to feel my heart beat a little faster, to breathe in the fresh air. It wasn't easy, but it was invigorating. I felt a sense of pride in my decision to keep moving, even when my body tried to tell me otherwise. I started to realize that movement was the key to staying young at heart. Whether it was walking, stretching, or even dancing in my living room, every time I moved, I felt stronger, more alive. The aches and pains didn't disappear overnight, but they became easier to manage. And more importantly, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction knowing that I was doing everything I could to take care of myself. It wasn't always easy, though. There were days when the fatigue would creep in, when I would question if I was doing enough. then I would remind myself that it's not about perfection, it's about consistency. Every step, every stretch, every small movement was building towards something bigger. And with each passing day, I could feel myself growing stronger, mentally and physically. Looking back now, I can see how far I've come. The person I was when I first started this journey was hesitant, unsure, and afraid of the changes my body was going through. But now, I've learned to embrace those changes and adapt to them. I've learned that movement isn't just about keeping fit, it's about staying connected to life. It's about maintaining independence, having the strength to take care of myself, and enjoying the little moments that make life worth living. So, if you're ever feeling unsure, if you're thinking about slowing down or giving up, remember this: movement is life. Keep moving, keep stretching, keep doing what feels right for you, and you'll find the strength you never knew you had. It's never too late to start. Just keep going, one step at a time, and you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. And every day, you'll feel a little more alive. As the weeks went by, I began to notice more changes in my body, both physically and mentally. I was moving more, feeling stronger, and the energy I had started to return in small bursts. But there was one more thing I needed to address: my diet. It was something I had always known was important, but never really paid enough attention to until now. You see, after years of making quick meals or grabbing whatever was easy, I realized that food was just as important as exercise when it came to maintaining a long, healthy life. It wasn't just about eating fewer calories or skipping the occasional treat. It was about eating nutrient-dense foods that fuel the body and keep it strong. I started researching and talking to friends who had been on a similar journey. They all emphasized one thing: eat real, whole foods. And so, I decided to make a change. I started small, slowly transitioning to more fresh vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and healthy fats. I swapped out the packaged snacks for almonds, fresh berries, and Greek yogurt. My plate began to look more colorful, and let me tell you, it was a delightful change. At first, I wasn't sure how my body would respond. Would I feel better? Would I have more energy? But the more I stuck to it, the more I began to see the benefits. I felt lighter, more vibrant, and my digestion improved. I couldn't believe how much of a difference it made. It wasn't just about losing weight. It was about feeling nourished from the inside out. I started experimenting with new recipes. And oh, what fun that was! Cooking became a creative outlet for me. I'd try a new vegetable or learn how to cook with quinoa instead of rice. I started making smoothies packed with leafy greens, fruits, and chia seeds, and it was like my body was thanking me with every sip. One thing I've learned is that food is so much more than just fuel, it's medicine. When you nourish your body with the right nutrients, you're giving yourself the tools to keep going, to stay strong and healthy. I also realized that eating well doesn't mean you have to deprive yourself. I still enjoy a piece of chocolate every now and then, or a small slice of cake at a family gathering. It's about balance. I also started listening more to my body when it came to hunger and satiety. No longer did I eat because I was bored or anxious. Instead, I ate because I was nourishing myself. I took my time, enjoyed my meals, and focused on the quality of the food I was putting into my body. It felt so empowering to make those decisions each day. The other day, I made a huge salad with fresh greens, cherry tomatoes, avocado, and grilled chicken. I added a homemade dressing made of olive oil and lemon, and I felt so proud of myself. As I sat down to eat, I realized something. This was more than just food. It was a choice I made to invest in my future. It's funny how something as simple as changing what's on your plate can have such a profound impact. When you prioritize health through good nutrition, You're not just adding years to your life, you're adding quality to those years. The energy, the clarity, the zest for life, it all comes from the fuel we choose to put in our bodies. Now, every day, I look at my plate as a reflection of my commitment to myself. I've learned that a healthy diet is not just a temporary fix, it's a lifelong commitment. And I can honestly say that it's made me feel more alive than I've felt in years. And the best part? I'm not alone in this journey. I talk with my neighbors, my family, and even my new friends at the community center about the positive changes we're all making. We swap recipes, share tips, and encourage each other to keep going. It's incredible how something as simple as food can bring people together and build a sense of community. So, if you're thinking about making a change in your diet, I encourage you to take that first step. You don't need to make huge, drastic changes overnight. Start small, listen to your body, and enjoy the process. The rewards will come, and before you know it, you'll feel more energetic, more vibrant, and ready to embrace all the wonderful things life has to offer. For me, it's not just about living longer, it's about living well. And that starts with the food I eat, the choices I make, and the love I put into my body every day. As the days went by, I found myself more energized, both physically and mentally. The changes I had made to my diet, my movement, and my outlook on life had begun to show results. But there was still one more piece of the puzzle I needed to tackle: keeping my mind sharp. You see, I've always believed that staying mentally active is just as important as keeping the body moving. But after years of focusing on physical health, I realized I hadn't been challenging my mind as much as I should. Sure, I read books, but what about engaging in new activities that really stretched my brain? One afternoon, while browsing through a local library newsletter, I saw something that caught my eye: a book club that focuses on not only reading, but also discussing complex ideas and philosophies. I was intrigued. I thought to myself, why not? What do I have to lose? I signed up immediately, and when the first meeting came around, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. I hadn't been part of a book club in years, and I was worried that my thoughts might be too outdated or irrelevant. But as soon as I walked into that room, I was welcomed with warm smiles and an enthusiasm that made me feel right at home. The book we were reading was The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. It wasn't just a light read. It challenged me to think deeply about life, happiness, and how we can shape our own destinies. We spent hours discussing the concepts, and I was amazed at how much I was learning. Every conversation sparked new insights, and it made me realize just how much I had been missing out on by not engaging in these types of intellectual discussions earlier in life. It wasn't long before I started to look forward to our meetings. I began taking notes, highlighting passages, and even writing down my own reflections on the chapters we discussed. I found myself engaging in conversations with my fellow members, exchanging ideas, and pushing my own understanding of the world. It wasn't just about reading books, it was about actively participating in the world of ideas, challenging my own beliefs, and learning from others. I was exercising my brain, just like I had been exercising my body. The more I did it, the more I felt my mind becoming clearer, more focused, and more alive. One day, after a particularly lively discussion on the importance of compassion, I had an epiphany. I realized that continuous learning is the key to staying young in spirit and mind. It's easy to think that as you age, there's no need to learn new things, that you've already lived long enough to know everything you need to. But in reality, that's when the mind starts to slow down. When you stop learning, you stop growing. Since that day, I've made it a point to keep learning. I started taking up new hobbies that challenged my brain, like learning to play the piano again, something I had put off for years, doing crossword puzzles every morning, and even taking an online course in photography. Every new skill I learn makes me feel more connected to the world and keeps me sharp. And the best part? It's never too late to start. Whether it's picking up a new hobby, taking a class, or just diving into a new book, there's always something to learn. I've found that the more I learn, the more excited I am about life. It's as if every new piece of knowledge adds more color and depth to my world. One of my favorite things now is to have conversations with people who are learning as well. I've joined a group of friends who meet weekly to discuss everything from history to current events. It's amazing how much we can learn from each other, no matter our ages. The exchange of ideas keeps me engaged, and I can feel my mind expanding every time we meet. Now, when I look at my life, I realize that the key to long-lasting happiness isn't just about the body, it's about the mind. You've got to keep challenging it, keep feeding it with new ideas, and keep it active. Because when your mind is sharp, you're truly alive. And when you're alive, you're never too old to learn, to grow, and to keep discovering the wonders of the world around you. So, if you're wondering how to stay sharp as you age, I encourage you to never stop learning. Find something new that excites you, whether it's a book, a hobby, or even a new class. Your mind is your greatest tool, and as long as you keep it active, you'll find that the years only make you wiser, more curious, and more alive than ever before. For me, the journey of learning is just beginning, and I couldn't be more excited about what's to come. After all, the more I learn, the more I realize that life is a never-ending adventure. As I sit here now, reflecting on the changes I've made and the lessons I've learned, I can't help but smile. The journey I've taken physically, mentally, and emotionally has transformed my life in ways I never expected. But more than that, it's given me a profound sense of peace, joy, and purpose. I used to believe that age was something that took things away from you. I thought that the older I got, the more I would lose my energy, my independence, my ability to enjoy life. But what I've learned is that age doesn't take away, it offers the opportunity to gain more wisdom, more experiences, more connection, and more joy. I've realized that we are the ones who shape our lives, no matter how many candles are on our birthday cake. We have the power to decide how we live, how we grow, and how we move forward. Whether it's through staying active, nourishing our bodies, keeping our minds sharp, or building strong connections with others, we can choose to live our best lives at any age. And for me, the most important lesson I've learned is this: never stop moving physically, mentally, and emotionally. Life is not something that happens to you as you get older. It's something that you actively create. Whether it's through small daily actions or big life changes, every step you take toward a healthier, more connected, and more purposeful life will lead to greater happiness, strength, and fulfillment. So, to anyone reading or listening to this, I want to say, it's never too late. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the same as you were in your youth, but you can always choose to keep moving forward. The decisions you make today, no matter how small, can set the course for a future that's full of vitality, joy, and purpose. Remember, life is a journey, not a destination. And as long as you're alive, there's always more to explore, more to learn, and more to give. So, let's embrace each day with open arms. Keep moving, keep growing, and above all, keep living. That's the beauty of life. It's never about how many years you've lived. but about how you've lived those years. So, I choose to keep moving forward, one step, one breath, one day at a time. And I hope you do too. From my heart to yours, Margaret. As I wrap up this chapter of my story, I want to leave you with this thought. No matter where you are in life, it's never too late to take control and live the life you want. Remember, every small step you take today is a step toward a healthier, happier future. So, if you've been inspired by what I've shared today, I encourage you to take action, no matter how small. Start moving, start learning, start connecting, and above all, start living. Before I end this video, I'd love to hear from you. What changes have you made? Or what changes are you planning to make in your life? I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. What challenges have you faced in staying active or keeping your mind sharp as you age? Or maybe you have a personal story or a tip to share that's helped you stay vibrant and full of life. I would love to hear from you, and I'm sure others would too. And if you found my story helpful or inspiring, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to Senior Moments Matt. By subscribing, you'll be joining a community of amazing, like-minded individuals who are on this journey of living a purposeful, fulfilling life. Let's continue to learn, grow, and share our experiences together. I truly appreciate you taking the time to watch and listen to my story, and I look forward to hearing about your own journeys in the comments. Stay strong, stay connected, and keep living with purpose. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep moving forward. Thank you so much for being here. With love and gratitude, Margaret.